It is probably safe to say that everyone enjoys music. However, when it comes to specific music genres, people are willing to argue, saying what they like is the best and anything else is bad. However, I ask you now to hold these judgments, as the culture I'm presenting today is the culture of jazz. First off, why listen to me? Well, I've played in a couple of jazz bands before in my high school life, one of them being the All City Jazz Band, a band composed of students across LAUSD. I've also attended a music history class. There, I became more passionate about jazz. Second, why should you care? Well, you probably don't know this, but the music of the past influences what music will be in the future. So, by not caring about the music of the past, you are not fully caring about the music you listen to now. With that out of the way, let's look at the artifact I've brought in. These are a pair of drumsticks owned by the famous big band player Louis Bellson. He was a fantastic player who knew his way around the kit very well, and for those who love heavy metal, he was the first to use the double bass drum. But besides coming from a fantastic musician, these sticks come from the great culture of jazz. So let's discuss this culture and how jazz is one of the most freest forms of music. Today we'll discuss the history as well as how jazz is played. So let's look at jazz's incredible history. Jazz was born in the late 1800s in New Orleans. During this time, many African Americans worked intensive labor jobs. They sang what were known as work songs, songs characterized by their call and response style. This later transitioned into jazz because instruments would imitate the style of the singer. Another form of jazz is known as the blues, which is a very emotional style used to express hardships, which many African Americans were facing during that time. Now, there is no known creator of jazz, but Buddy Bolden, a cornetist, was known as the father of jazz. He was the first to actually play jazz, meaning he was the first to improvise a solo. More on solos later on. But sadly, in 1907, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and had to live the rest of his life in an asylum. Looking back, this music helped people express their feelings and thoughts. Now let's look at how jazz is played. I interviewed a friend of mine who, like most young people, listened to the music of today. I asked her what she thought about jazz, and she responded saying, "It all sounds the same." Now this is a common belief since people do not know what to listen for when they listen to jazz. Well, luckily for you, I'm here to tell you. Now, you see, what makes jazz jazz is the use of improvisation. When a jazz musician plays, he will usually improvise a solo. Now, this solo is based off the chords of the song, and with this creative freedom, the musician can freely express themselves in any way. And by analyzing a person's solo, you could analyze a person's creativity. A lesson plan from the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz describes jazz as individual freedom but with responsibility to the group. This can also be thought as a democracy. To review, we looked at the history of jazz as well as how jazz is played. We learned that jazz is all about the First Amendment and how this music can allow a person to freely express themselves more than any other style. To conclude, jazz was and still is important as it helps us exercise our First Amendment, and it should never die.